So basically, top of the funnel is dead. Top of the
Yeah.
funnel is basically dead because any question that people wanted to ask in your niche, it's already been answered. Any AI can answer it. They don't need to go to Google for it.
Reddit is the number one source that's cited by, engines like ChatGPT right now. So I don't know how I feel about that. The biggest advice for dealing with AI search is just understand the change is constant. For example, ChatGPT reduced the amount of links by 50% in like a couple weeks ago.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of What About AI Agents. So Daniel Horowitz with us is here, and he's an SEO strategist at Informatica, and he specifically focuses on AI SEO. And this is very impactful to me as a business owner, and I'm sure it's impactful to many other people. How do you get, chatbots to recommend your website, to recommend your product or service versus your competitors? And I mean, Daniel has been in this space for a long time. He, worked with clients like Shopify, Trade, Jotform. He has been an SEO writer. And I think, Daniel, I'll let you introduce yourself, but would really love to hear your insights. And I think our audience would as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. So a little background about myself. I've been in the SEO space for about a decade now. I worked about 7+ years at a small SaaS SEO agency called Simple Tiger, where I was their head of link acquisition. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been working at a company called Informatica, where I've been the lead of their enterprise SEO strategy.
Nice. So how has SEO changed in the past, 2 or 3 years?
God, how has it not changed? I think the biggest shift is we're now optimizing for a fragmented search landscape. So I think historically, we were just optimizing for Google search, right? So you had these kind of 10 blue links, maybe over time, Google had added rich results, let's say like featured snippets, people also ask sections, and you could certainly optimize for those. But the same thing was true. You were looking at the keywords, you were looking at the rankings, you're using a tool like SEMrush, Ahrefs, et cetera, kind of trying to reverse engineer that ranking, looking at the content that was out there on your competitors' websites and trying to beat that content, right? Just trying to create a more comprehensive resource, trying to build topical authority, linking around those. And look, those things are still all true. Those things still all matter. But now you're optimizing for this another layer, right? Where you're optimizing for AI search, you're optimizing for YouTube, you're optimizing for TikTok, depending on the nature of your business. And, this upcoming, AI agent layer as well, where, maybe it's not going to be people who are crawling your website. It's going to be AI agents. So there's a lot of different things to consider now. The landscape is just a lot more fragmented than I think it was a couple years ago. Even in the last 3-6 months, it's changed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Google AI results are killing so much natural traffic, and they're horrible, by the way. I heard somebody found a way to manipulate those results. What they would do is they would do like a $5 or $10 press release about their keywords, saying that their company is the number one expert or number one provider for that keyword or service. Google AI started recommending them. So for like
Yeah.
a $5, $10, so they were able to manipulate it. I'm sure Google already patched that, but I thought it was silly that that's how this gets manipulated these days.
Definitely. It's easier than ever, I think, to manipulate AI search results. And I think that's a big problem with just like the sheer level of disinformation that's out there that a lot of us in the SEO space kind of have to counter.
Yeah, because like we need to build good content, and we were trained build good quality content that people will find valuable and people will come. But nowadays, you have to make sure that ChatGPT finds it valuable, and ChatGPT does not find it generic. So when the person asks, what is the best service for X, or what is the best products for Y, it tells, well, this is the best product, and then your name pops up. Because if your name starts popping up, you start getting those demos. So what are some of the techniques that you've been using specifically at Informatica? Like, let's say, what are the top 5 things that one person should do to be able to get a good search placement in AI search in the modern age?
Okay, so it's an interesting mix of, I think, tactics that already were always working, like, site foundation, technical architecture on your website, hierarchy of like how pages are found. Those things all still matter a lot. But there's also new things. I would say like the tactics are about 70% the same, right? But like there's about a 30% layer where, we really have to optimize for these AI search results. So one thing we really need to look at is structured data. This is really important. So this has always been a factor in AI search results, having schema markup, things like that. But now it's really more important, especially on the products level. So what we've been doing is going into all our different product pages. At Informatica, we have a ton of different products and use cases and things like that. So, going into all these and really, adding the schema markup so that AI crawlers can better interpret these pages. So that's one big change. The other one is providing
And what is this? And what is this? So you're just adding additional meta tags?
Yeah, it's a product schema, it's
Yeah,
called.
right. And what specific, like, because we've added reviews recently, so we are now showing on every SERP result, it shows like the number of stars we have on G2, for example, for our
Sure.
what are some of the good examples of that schema that people should add that are maybe interesting or like increase your CTR, for example?
I would say a lot of this is really based on trying to get AI crawlers to show like have more information about your product that it's not necessarily getting on the page, right? So, kind of providing more context, adding more information about your company, I would say there's a variety of things, but yeah, basically making sure that you have product level schema on all your product pages is really important. That being said, there's some things that still are the same. You still want to make sure that you have some level of keyword in your strategy, but not totally go toward that. I think a lot of the top of the funnel has been really hollowed out by Google AI overviews and AI search in general. So like, for example, our SEO strategy at Informatica has historically been built around kind of like our major product areas. So let's say like data quality, master data management, et cetera. So a lot of what we used to do is have these kind of like pillar pages where we'd have, kind of like this traditional like HubSpot era, like hub and spoke approach, right? But now all of these pillar articles don't really get a lot of traffic, even though the rankings have shifted dramatically, because you don't need to go to informatica.com to find out what is master data management, right? Like an AI overview is going to answer that now. So, and in fact, I think it's something like 70% of users don't even click down in the AI overview. So they only read like the first 1 to 2 paragraphs that show up. So like we're really, I think more so than even AI, it's user behavior that's really changing and really optimizing toward that, where people want quicker answers. People want to get the information they want quicker, or they're going to go elsewhere. So if you're writing an article that's say like use case specific, you're going a little maybe in the middle of the funnel. Let's say instead of writing about what is master data management, you're writing about the best use cases for master data management with generative AI, right? You need to give the information quick. I think Google historically has rewarded a certain incentive structure of saying like, hey, like, write this long preamble, tell me what is master data management in the article, literally the opposite right now. So try to answer the question, not to say you don't want to be comprehensive, you do, but don't waste space. Make sure that you're writing the answer quicker. There's a lot of talk in the SEO industry in general about things like chunking optimization, things like that. You can't really optimize for that. That's like how an AI system will bring out your text when it's citing you. You can't really optimize for that, but what you can do is give it more opportunities to pull out something really snackable as opposed to like this long preamble and things like that. So indirectly, you can influence it, but directly, no. So it's just like, make as much content as possible. We're still using topical authority as a really important lever. Try to cover your topic, show you're an expert. These things all still really matter, whether it's just for Google, for ChatGPT, for, Perplexity, Claude, etc.
So do backlinks matter?
Yes, definitely. I mean, look, I came from the backlink world, right? Like I was the head of link acquisition for an agency. So yeah, they still matter. These days, it's more of a focus on quality than quantity. When I was running link building campaigns, and this was for major brands, by the way, like Shopify, E-Trade, et cetera, we were all really focused on like this tactical level of like, okay, like we have a keyword, we have a page, we want to build X amount of maybe not exact match anchor text, but like, okay, we're looking at the competition saying we need 30 links to rank for this keyword. And then we would do a link building campaign. I'm not saying you can't do that to some degree, but if you're losing so many of your clicks from the top of the funnel already, what's the value of that in the same way? So links still matter, but I would say I would focus really more on the quality than the quantity. Even like digital PR is becoming a huge lever that people are using. We're getting real mentions and citations. So like, we're Informatica, for example, like there's a lot of news opportunities there. We have our CEO going out on Bloomberg and all these different Wall Street Journal, et cetera, big publications. So like those matter a lot more now than just the tactical level of link building where you're kind of using outreach and building links that way. And not to say that doesn't work, because that's not true, but just like for AI crawlers, they value the trust element more so than the page rank, which is what Google is based on.
Yeah, which comes back to that buying a press release to talk good about your product or service, and then Google recommending it, making sense because they have not perfected that tech yet, so they don't downgrade you for now. But I guess that will happen. So, what are some other
Definitely.
things that you've noticed? So, basically, top of the funnel is dead. Top of the
Yeah.
funnel is basically dead because any question that people wanted to ask in your niche that is a basic question, it's already been answered, and like any AI can answer it. They don't need to go to Google for it. Ranking those keywords is done. We need to focus on middle and bottom of the funnel, people in the market to buy a solution like yours or to buy a service like yours or product like yours. So what are some of the best practices of constructing that middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, and what should one focus on?
So the way we're doing it at Informatica, because I can only speak to what's been working for us, is we're actually building those cross-functional relationships for any SEO at an enterprise and organization extremely important. So we're working with our product teams in order to develop that, because end of the day, I know a lot about data management, AI data management, but I'm not a subject matter expert. Like we have our product managers, we have our engineering teams, et cetera. So really working with those people, actually sitting down and doing structured interviews with them. And that's worked really well for us, and then extracting, insights from that and building topical maps around that. So there are so many things where like maybe a company is calling it one thing, but, we're not talking to the customers, right? So we're bringing in people who are actually doing that, product managers who are working with customer success teams and things like that. And then that's how we're kind of finding surfacing those topics that are not just cute, aren't something that's going to come up on a keyword research tool, right? So that's really how we're constructing like our middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content strategy, topical authority strategy.
So basically talk within the internal teams, find out what the customers are asking for and build. Yeah, I remember somebody was telling us like back in 2018, 2019, try to find keywords that your people are going to be searching for when your business takes off, because that's going to propel your company. So like in my case, it was product documentation. That was not a thing when I was starting at Doxy. Then like eventually it became a thing, and now it has a respectable search volume. We ranked it, we got good results from it, we got a lot of demos booked. Is this something similar to what you're doing?
I think for us, we're really focused on, like we have a very long sales cycle, right? Like we work with enterprise company, we're not like a small B2B SaaS company. So, we work with huge companies. Some of these contracts could take maybe months or even a year to negotiate, right? So what we're really trying to do is influence the conversation, so that's really, I would say the big difference is like, of course, like we want to get demos and signups, right? Like, of course, conversion is a goal, but we're trying to show up everywhere is really kind of building that influence. So moving away from that click through model and going for more of a visibility model, I think has been the big shift for us.
So can you explain to me a little bit about the visibility model? What does that mean?
Yeah. So a lot of it is, first of all, clicks are obviously we want clicks, right? But they're not happening to the same degree. I think I actually did a presentation recently where I found that I think it's something like over 60% of website clicks don't exist anymore due to AI overviews, changes in search, et cetera. So that's you. And, that's just general, like for certain industries, it's going to be worse or better. But, I think for us, we've definitely noticed a big shift there. So that visibility model, it's a combination of looking at your impression data from Google Search Console, using like an AI visibility tracker. I don't think anyone's perfected that yet by any means, by the way. I know there's a lot of startups that have, come up with like Profound or, even like SEMrush has, an AI toolkit. I don't think anyone's perfected that, but, trying to use like persona-based prompting to come up and see how often are your products or service recommended versus your competitors, right? I mean, that's really important because what you're really trying to do is simulate the customer journey, and simulate their research cycle as well, which I think in the past in SEO, keywords were a proxy for that because that was the only way to find information, right? So like if you went into SEMrush and you said, hey, this search has, 500 volume and if I can get in the top 3, I can capture even a third of that. Like, okay. And then it's up to me to do the CRO on my page to make sure that the conversion happens. It wasn't so fragmented where we have to look at a few different models and kind of like come together and sort of create something cohesive.
Yeah, because I guess top 3 in Google is nothing now, because you're going to get overshadowed by an AI result unless this page doesn't have an AI snippet. And then those pages, those keywords become more valuable, like long tail. So are you spending more time now talking to chatbots and trying to see if they're recommending your service for different queries? And then, something cool I found, the founder of Streamlit, he used to post chats he had with ChatGPT about his service and how to serve certain problems for his service. And then when I would be searching for certain problems, those chats would come up. And that would be part of his blog strategy, where he was posting those topical SEO chat. And those were great for SEO because chatbots found them to be valuable, and then Google finds them to be valuable as well. I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It makes total sense.
So if we have a chat about SEO, and then we publish a transcript of this particular chat, and this chat gets indexed, and it gets indexed on the proper site, or you put it on Reddit or something, and then that becomes a piece of authority that then the chatbots get fed off, and then they recommend whatever you're talking about here, like Bioinformatica.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's a big thing too, is, you just mentioned Reddit. Reddit is the number one source that's cited by, engines like ChatGPT right now. So I don't know how I feel about that. If you go on Reddit, like, a lot of posts are created for karma, not necessarily for accuracy. Right. But,
And there's
it's
a
just
lot of
something.
Reddit manipulation going on now. There is a lot of,
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting times. It's a new frontier for sure. So that's what I'm saying. When things are so fragmented, we have to, be on Reddit. We have to be on YouTube. This is all really a part of the umbrella of SEO now.
Yeah, I guess SEO has expanded, right? Because before it was easy. We would focus on getting good backlinks for our site. We'd get to page 1. We'll have hit.3. We're getting whatever our call to action we're good. But now we have to be everywhere because you don't know what those models are going to index. And with the next update, is it going to wipe you, or are you going to get actually to the top of the knowledge that the AI shares? The release frequency of these updates is also like whenever they release a new model, that's when you have a chance to be included in it. So whatever work you've done for 6 months, it's only going to pay off in whatever time period is going to take them to release that new model with the latest cutoff date, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's important, it's like, yeah, you're looking at those updates, you're looking at the Google update, core updates that come in. There's just a lot to do. For SEOs, I think they're probably, at least for speaking for myself, I'm busier than ever. I think historically the role has really been one of being like a janitor in the closet, right? Like you're going in, you're cleaning up the website, you're changing some meta tags, you're building some backlinks, etc. But now it's really like you have to be front and center, you're a communicator at your organization. And for me, like, I love that. So it's been a nice change.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, the way that things are changing, we don't even know where this is going to go in the next 6 months and how this is going to play out. The only thing we can do is speculate and play around and make our tweaks and hope we don't get penalized for it. So how do you do risk-averse SEO? Because you're working for a large corporation, right? So obviously, as a startup, I have a lot more leeway to play around and see what happens and experiment, versus you have to be more by the book, right? You can't just go like crazy and do crazy
Sure.
stuff.
No, we're not using any PBNs or anything like that. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Of course. We have to just get buy-in for the things we're doing. I have good relationships with VPs, even the CMO at the organization, and just making sure you're presenting, even going to start doing like SEO office hours, just making sure that people understand the shifts and how they can help. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is it's a lot easier to catch flies with honey than vinegar. You can agitate for change or for moving quicker, and you absolutely should do that. But end of the day, like, you have to get buy-in, you have to build relational capital. So I would say that's really the key of enterprise SEO right now, because historically there wasn't a ton to, I think the enterprise SEO role was, you would go in, like I said, you're kind of the janitor in the closet, you would certainly make fixes to the website, you would implement a strategy, but it was limited in what you could achieve. And now it's like we have to really respond to this massive disruption in search.
So if you are a company that has been hesitant about jumping into the whole AI thing, but you saw a big dip in your kind of traffic and you're looking to adopt best practices for AI SEO, what's the top 3 things that they should do to be able to like get into the game, to get their AI SEO going and to start getting into those recommendations?
So I think the first thing, and it's funny because this is so basic, but it matters so much, is internal linking. It doesn't cost anything, right? You just go through your website, make sure that all your links are good, that there's a good pathway, because this certainly always mattered for Google crawlers, but it really matters for AI crawlers as well, to create relationships, entity-based relationships between the pages on your website. So that's really important. That's something that an SEO can do with buy-in just from their web team, right? Like you could work with, I mean, for me, I can go, I have permission to go do it myself, but like, you could work with your web team or et cetera to implement that. So that's going to be really important. The next thing is, and, I keep beating the drum on this, but topical authority is just so, so important. To your point, like, you just want to show up as much as possible, right? And, you don't know exactly what's going to work, but, you kind of have to almost take like a scattershot approach of like, try to publish a lot of good quality and relevant content that can help by, working with your, PM teams, working with your, campaign teams, et cetera, to really make sure that's really targeted toward the personas that you're looking for. So that's really important because search is all personalized. It's all persona driven. It's all like, hi, I'm an IT manager with 10 years of experience. I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. So you have to meet that. You have to meet that demand and you have to create content that is specific and actionable, is comprehensive, right? You can't just write top of funnel fluff anymore. You really have to get into the details. A lot of the people who advocate our products at the organizational level are data engineers, IT managers, et cetera. So we have to meet that demand. So I would say that's number 1 and 2. Number 3, and I would say I touched on this before, is the schema layer, adding that structured data, especially on the product level. Organizational schema, blog author schema is really important. So making sure, building those entities, that's really the point that I'm getting at, is building entities, building that authority and linking it all together on your website.
Yeah, I think interlinking is super important. I read recently that many companies underuse their 404 page, but you can actually use your 404 page to include a bunch of links to different things around your product and service. And that doesn't, because otherwise, if your 404 page is just a picture that says 404 not found, the crawler stops there. But if you're actually
Right.
giving it places to crawl and to continue and recommended stuff, then it's kind of like it's continuing on its journey. So that's kind of what some people were saying is helping.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And, things with like doing redirects, like you want to lower your indexable pages, especially for AI crawlers, not higher them. So making sure to implement 310 redirects. If you really, let's say you have a blog post that's from 8 years ago, there's no relevance, it's not ranking. I think historically the advice would be to 301 it to your blog page. You should 310 it though, drop it from the index, because AI crawlers don't spend a lot of time on your website. So the more pages you're giving it to index, it's going to get lost essentially and move on.
So less is more. Nowadays, less is
Yes.
more.
Yep. So making, from, like I said, from a topical authority perspective, you obviously want to broaden your, your appeal in terms of the topics you're hitting, but you really, the really important part is to go into depth on those, not just to, I think historically we've used that kind of like HubSpot model of just like, oh, like, what is master data management strategy, master data management metrics, and like you would create kind of like that supporting content. No more. Now we have to go more in depth, things like generative AI, MDM use cases. That's not something that's going to show up on SEMrush, right? Like that's not going to have volume. You're not going to go into Google Search Console and see a ton of clicks for that. But for AI search, an article like that is really important because, if you have someone on the technical level who's doing research into that, well, now look, you're influencing that result, right?
So it's almost like micro SEO, where these 1 to 5 searches a month, but for very, very specific niche topics, are a lot more valuable than, let's say, somebody searches for like a super broad term like Markdown editor, and then it's like there is like a billion results for that, or like, I don't know, like cybersecurity services, like a trillion results. You can't rank that anymore. Or even if you do, nobody's going to read it because Google overview will kill you.
they're just going to go to the AI overview and learn about it, and they're never going to click on you. So it's like the website click is the result of doing good influence work elsewhere now, as opposed to like what you can expect.
This is tremendously valuable, and I feel like this conversation could probably be transported 6 months into the future. We can have another call and see how this evolves.
Definitely.
Like, to me, I feel like AI SEO is evolving so much, and there is so many mistakes that are yet to be made and so many victories that are yet to be won for us, right? In terms of getting ourselves visible to our target customers at a small and at a large level. To me, this is an important conversation to keep having and to keep educating our listeners. So, Daniel, I will leave you with any last words that you have, anything that you'd like to share or anything that you think would be valuable. Maybe people can reach out to you for SEO services to help them with their site.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Daniel Horowitz SEO. I would say the biggest advice for dealing with AI search is just understand the change is constant. For example, ChatGPT reduced the amount of links by 50% in like a couple weeks ago. So that's another thing to adjust for, right? It's like, okay, well, I think that we had started to be seen like, wow, like, people are getting maybe 1% of their clicks from ChatGPT and AI engines. And like, okay, now that's halved, right? So what do we do? How do we do that? Maybe the click is not always what happens. Maybe Google search is now more navigational, right? Where people do their research on AI and they come across, okay, they're looking for, let's say, the best, master data management services, and Informatica pops up, and then they just Google Informatica, right? And then they go to the website. So we've noticed that, for example, our homepage traffic has more than doubled in the last
Hmm.
year. And it's like, what's that about, right? And like those you can track those user journeys, and like they're highly engaged in a way that branded traffic might not have been in the past. So it's almost like you're generating that branded traffic by influencing the results in AI. So it's just something important, I think, to keep in mind. But the other major thing I would say is there's a lot of advice out there about like GEO, AEO, et cetera. A lot of it is well-meaning. I think there's a lot of people who are stepping into the space who have never really done SEO. So they're just parroting things they've heard already. If you're going to work with someone, make sure that they have an SEO background, have SEO experience, because the fundamentals of SEO are still extremely important in the AI search era.
And make sure they rank the real site, right? Like a site in
Exactly.
your niche and not something that's like, I heard some guy build an AI based site that got like 2 million clicks and everybody is waiting for them to fail, but he's built some fully AI generated site that keeps generating like millions pages a month of AI generated content, and somehow Google is still recommending them. But again, this is not something that you like as a business. It's not something that you want to chase after, because that's gonna come and catch up to you, because you want a stable source of clicks and a stable source of customers in your funnel. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for like to get 1 million clicks one month and then to go down to zero another month.
I mean, those rank and rent sites are great if you're, just doing the publication model and you're looking to make some quick cash. But yeah, if you're looking to build a sustainable business, that's based around demos, conversions, et cetera, then no, that doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. So everybody, this is Daniel Horowitz. Find him on LinkedIn. He is the head of SEO at Informatica, very knowledgeable person. And Daniel, I'll hope to see you again on our show.
Absolutely.
Probably within the next like 6 months, we can discuss what changed. Because to your point, agent optimization or chat optimization people are offering, that's not real yet. Nobody knows how this works. Nobody knows how to influence it. But people are jumping on a bandwagon and trying to get that information, which is not something that they're just trying to get your money most of the time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining the show, Daniel.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
having me.